Hey everyone, this is Cassandra Williamson with my friend from up in Michigan, Jamie. How you doing, Jamie?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm inside. I'm staying cool.
Good. I'm always cool.
Well,
No, like a '70s kind of cool.
that's right.
Anyway, we were just talking about some things. Just she and I have been on here talking for 20 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Just talking all kinds of different whatever comes to mind. We talk about it. Doing the um, what do you call it?
It could
Stream of
be the meat
consciousness
treat.
talking. Yeah, we're doing the stream of consciousness kind of talking. Whatever comes out, we talk about it. The last topic we were talking about was cars, and I was mentioning that my brother loves working on cars, loves challenges, and his granddaughter who just recently graduated high school. She's 18. She got her everything and all that, but he has a little Hyundai Elantra, and he has had the engine out of that car in the past 6 months, probably 30 times,
Hmm.
and completely stripped down and put back together because it doesn't run the way he wants it to run. He's a perfectionist, and I love it about him because he's really good at all that kind of stuff. But I've tried to help him on that thing, and it's like, oh my God, Gideon, that's his name, Gideon. I said, this is time number 27. Take it out. And the problem with that Elantra was that you can't get the timing just right. I mean, you follow the procedures and all that, top dead center and everything on there that he knows all about and I don't know squat about. Line that thing up, get it just perfect, and then it misses just a little bit somewhere down the road. You go take it and push it and accelerate it and won't take off the way it's supposed to, and it'll come back in and pull it all apart and adjust it again. Just a notch. Put it back on. Phew. But that's what he likes. He likes to take it apart. That's a challenge for him, and he loves doing it. So that's good. Yeah, I'm not that way with with cars.
No. Like to just get
No,
in them and go from point A to point B.
yeah, that's me. That's me. But my little Cooper's got 100,000 miles on it now because I do Spark. You know what Spark is?
Is it like Uber or?
Yeah, it is. It's for Walmart though.
Oh, okay.
Walmart deliveries, and I do that because it gets me out of the house and I get to go out and meet people and talk to
Oh,
people and
yeah.
all that.
I can see where that would be kind of beneficial if you're a social type person. You're out there just shooting the breeze with everybody. And
Exactly. But the funniest thing is, Jamie, I'm here in Appalachia,
yeah,
and everybody here voted for Trump.
yeah,
And this is deep red, even though I know that there are the voter rolls actually have more Democrats than Republicans here. They voted for Trump, okay? But and this is the hills, this is hillbilly country, and most people have this impression of if you go into the hillbilly country and you go into the hollers that they're not real friendly to LGBT people and especially
yeah.
teens. I haven't had a single problem.
Well, I went to Tennessee up in the hills there too, and I didn't have any problems. I've actually had a reunion with a family that I had never met. It was my grandma's sister's grandkids
What part of Tennessee?
down by Franklin, Tennessee, Collin
Franklin.
County. Yeah, Franklin County. Yeah,
Okay, Franklin
my,
County.
yeah. My grandma was born in Sherwood, Franklin County, Tennessee.
Okay, okay. Where is that? Where is
Well,
Franklin?
it's like a little bit west of Chattanooga.
Okay, okay. McMinnville is out that direction.
Yeah, well, you head west on there. I mean, on 24, you go through Tennessee, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama. I mean, just kind
Yeah,
of hugs the state line.
yeah. I've been around that 24
Yeah,
all the way around.
yeah.
No.
Well, I mean, you look at the ancestry part of it there, and half the people will say somebody was born in Alabama, the other one will be Tennessee. I guess they moved the border years ago. Somehow I don't know how they did that exactly, but
They
you
may
know,
have, may have had a midwife who lived over there on the other side of the border, and yeah, who knows? That's always a quandary, you know. Where were you born? I was born on the line.
That's right. Yeah.
Pick a state. I was born on the line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even like the city of Holland, it's actually split into two counties. You know, and I mean, when I
Mhm.
first moved to this area in Ottawa County, you couldn't buy beer on Sunday. You could buy wine. You could buy liquor in the bar, but you couldn't go to the grocery store or even buy a beer in the store.
Hmm.
I actually helped, get the petition around that allowed the sales of alcohol on Sunday here,
Hmm.
because
Good.
people would still go to the other counties, come back and drink. So what was the point, you know?
Exactly. Exactly right. They've got a similar situation right here in Pike County in eastern Kentucky. Is that the county itself is dry
Yeah,
still, but the city of Pikeville, the county seat, is wet.
yeah.
The county government, they can get drunk all they want.
I guess so. But I mean, it's the same way with pot. Okay, pot's legal in Michigan even for recreation. It's not. It's not even legal federally. I don't know how they do that.
Well, they've figured out that there's no way for them to enforce it anymore.
Well, then they ought to make it legal, I guess, federally, because
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, right now there's like an overload of dispensaries and grow places around here. You know, the price that they're getting has got a lot of people getting out of the business because they're not making any money, whether it's the edibles or whatever form you want to put it into. It's just
right.
it's overkill. They got way more than they got customers.
Yeah,
I don't do that. I don't do the drinking part of it anymore. So
right.
to me it doesn't matter. But the fact is that they're supposed to not drive under the influence, and probably most of them are. They don't even have a way to measure if you are under the influence. They can't
Right.
make you take a blood test. They can make you take a breathalyzer, but that's not going to show up on a breathalyzer.
Right. Well, I mean, all you have to do is stick your head in the window inside the vehicle, and you can tell. You can go.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
but supposedly that's not probable cause for them to really do it. I don't
well,
understand it myself, but I mean,
I'll tell you this real quick. I had a business. I was putting up metal buildings,
you know,
and I had a 40,000 square foot building I was putting up. Where was this building at? Down the southeastern part of Kentucky, down towards the state line with Tennessee, down in
yeah,
that area. And I had 3 employees. It doesn't take much to put up a big building if you know
right.
what you're doing. You don't have to have a big, massive crew, and you don't even have to have trained people. As long as they're not afraid of heights, you can do it. And so one day, the building had been framed up and all the siding put on it and the doors put on it, and my employees had gotten there ahead of me.
You
So I walk in one door, it's diagonally from the other corner, and I walk in and I go, go home. And he said, why? And I said, I know what that sweet smell is. I cannot have you with that stuff up on this building.
know,
If you get hurt, it's on you. My insurance, they're going to say, no, they were high. You're not going to take care of them.
yeah.
So I had to send them home. I
Well, I
did
mean,
have, I paid, huh?
I was just gonna say. I mean, I had the same sort of thing when I hired somebody to do the roofing. I come home and I notice all these beer cans in my bushes. And I mean, the guy that owned the business, was trying to imply that it was mine. I said, I don't drink Bud Light. I said, if I did, they'd be in bottles. I said, you got a county sheriff's deputy that lives across the street. That's not very good advertisement to be, having your guys up there on the roof or whatever drinking. I said, if they drink after the job and they threw them in the dumpster or something like that, I wouldn't know anything about it. You need to tell your people at least be a little bit more discreet about what they're doing.
Right, right. Oh my gosh. Construction workers are a very fascinating bunch of people. I've been
Yeah.
doing it I was doing it. I haven't been in a while, but I was doing it for a long time, and good long time, almost 30 years.
Yeah.
And so I was putting up a building here in eastern Kentucky in Pike County. It was a pharmacy building, and I knew these guys would come in to work high and stuff like that. I mean, they'd smoke some on the way in, and I knew it. But this one guy, one day, I told him, and he was an experienced carpenter. And I said, "Look, man, you know what that mending plate is right there, don't you?" And I said, "You better keep your darn hands away from that." We were moving rafter sections around. I said, "Make sure you keep your hands away from that stuff." And what did he do? He reached right down in there and grabbed a hold of one that ripped his hand open.
Wow.
Take him to the ER to get it all sewn up. They did the blood test, which they're always going to do. It turns out that he was high, and they wanted me to pay for it. And then he had the gall to come back to me a couple of weeks later, actually. Come back to me a couple of weeks later and says, that hand is still hurting me a lot. Can you get the hospital over there to send me some pain pills? And I said, no. And then I called the hospital, and I said, if this guy calls you up saying his hand is still hurting from a job accident, you tell him to go to
Yeah.
hockey sticks land.
Yeah.
I said, because all he's doing is trying to get pain pills. I know this person.
Yeah.
And I had another guy.
It's hard. I mean, I worked with another guy, last job I was at, at 5 o'clock in the morning, he couldn't pass a breathalyzer test. You tell human resource, they said, well, just because you smell alcohol don't mean he's drunk. And I said, well, he shouldn't be drinking at all, whether he's drunk or whatever, I mean, and this was the person too that would go and have the machine on and be walking around inside of it. You're supposed to lock out, tag out, but he wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous right there.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But, you tell my OSHA wants you to do their job, and I said, I'm not getting paid to do your job. I said, I tell you that all these things that are going on, you need to make a surprise visit here and see what's going on.
Right.
I won't do it.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm not sure if there's anything left of OSHA anymore, is there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, they didn't do nothing over the years before, Elon Musk, went through and made the cuts. But
yeah, I don't know. They were always around construction jobs and always around the coal facilities that my brother worked at a lot, and they were always around those things. It seemed like to me, and they weren't real active unless they didn't like the owners of your business.
Right. Well, it just takes one accident, or a cave in or something like that, something that makes the news, then they're all over it for a while.
Right. That's true. I had a guy show up I was putting up a trucking terminal. It was for American Freightways. It was down in the eastern side of Knoxville in Tennessee.
Yeah.
This thing was 400 feet long, 100 feet wide. And the guy came on the job. He said, I'm not afraid of heights. I'd love to have you on. I'd love to be able to work for you and all that. And before I could say anything, he'd walked up on the job site. I said, and before I could say anything at all, this 20-something young kid, probably late teens, climbed up a column, just skinnied himself up a metal column, 25 feet up in the air.
Like a lumberjack, huh?
Ran across a 6-inch wide beam that was just standing there with cables holding it in place. Ran all the way across the top of that thing and down the other side and came back over to me and said, told you I'm not scared of heights. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, you're not working for me either.
You take those kind of chances. No, I don't think I want to have you. Yeah.
no, I'm not going to have you out here on this job. My God, I said, you've got to learn a little bit of control.
Right.
What you
Just
do?
because you can act crazy, don't mean that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for crazy.
No. Then I had another guy show up at a Dollar General store I was putting up.
Yeah.
And he said, I've been around construction all my life. I've built all kinds of homes. I can walk on 2x6s and 2x12s up in the attic and stuff like that, building a new house and everything. And he said, what can I do to help you here on the job? Another freestanding column, but a lot smaller than the one that I just talked about. But I said, yeah, what I need to do, so I need you to go right to the middle, the peak of the column, the frame line. Go to the peak of that frame line up there. And I'm going to be pulling some purlins up to the top. Just pull them up with a rope, put it on there, and I'll be on the other one. We'll pull them up together, and we just put it up there and bolt it down, and both of these things will start tightening up a little bit. He got up there all right. He couldn't move. he was
petrified.
So the difference between building a house and building one of these is that there is nothing around that gives you a frame of reference. You are freestanding in the darn air.
I went up to the top of the mast there when I was in the shipyard, on the aircraft carrier.
Oh, wow. What was that like? I've never done that.
That was interesting. I think that I was on every level, right down to the very bottom, of like the 8th deck below the hangar deck.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you served down, on? I think 13 up.
Oh, okay. Is that what you served on? Was an aircraft carrier? Yeah. Which one?
America.
Oh, USS America. Okay. Wow.
Right now it's about 300 miles off the coast of North Carolina and about 16,000 feet of water. They sunk it back in 2005.
Oh, wow.
Took them about they used it for target practice. It took them about 4 weeks to sink it. It was basically to make future ships more watertight. Find the weaknesses and stuff like that. I mean, there was a purpose, but I would have rather have seen it be a museum or something, because that was one of the last conventional powered aircraft carriers there were.
Yeah, that would have made a great museum piece, like the Iowa or something.
Yeah,
similar to that. That would have been a good museum piece. Absolutely.
Muskegon, you got LST 393, and you also got the Silver Sides, which was in Chicago at one time, but they decided they didn't want to have it there anymore. So an aircraft carrier would have been ideal there too.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, absolutely.
Fresh water, you don't have to worry about the upkeep like you do in the salt water.
Right. Wow. So we towed a ship from France. There was a French frigate that was at one time a U.S. ship during World War II. We gave it to the French, but when they finished using it, they gave it back to us, and we hauled that there, towed that frigate into the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
And then just blew the crap out of it. Sunk it.
You sunk it right there in the med?
Yeah, just gone. It didn't take long, really.
Wow.
Oh, wow. But you were talking about the testing stuff that they were doing to improve watertight standards or whatever to make it better.
The integrity.
The integrity. Okay, that's the word I was looking for, the watertight integrity of the ship.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense to do that. The Navy has been really good, with air quotes, about making sure that their ships and personnel are mostly safe.
Safe as can be. I mean, the aircraft carrier is the target. If that goes down, everything else is going to go down with it. But
yeah, exactly.
That's the target.
When my dad was building the platforms that they tested the atomic bombs on over in the Philippines, Bikini Atoll, a place like that, he was a steel worker in the Navy in the 50s doing that. And they would put Army soldiers on troop transport ships at different perimeters from where they tested the bomb around that thing. and then set it off and see what the impact would be on the ship and the people. They didn't know any better, but they were trying to figure out how to be better. The person running that was what was his name? Pinson, and he did it with them. I mean, he was not afraid to get out in the middle and fly aircraft through the mushroom cloud.
Well, I mean, okay, could you imagine what it would be like being the pilot there that did Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and basically knowing that you're letting us go and wanting to see so badly, what you just bombed the hell out of, while you're trying to get out of there.
Well, you can't turn around and look because you'll burn your eyes out.
Well, I know, but the curiosity is still there. I mean, you can do it. But
I got to meet his grandson, and a very interesting person. I'm trying to remember the last name again. What was the name of that pilot? I can't remember his name. Shoot, who flew the Enola Gay? I know the name. Oh my God, I know it. Why can't I come up with that? Okay. The Enola Gay. I'm going to look it up because.
Yeah, we both need a history lesson.
Paul Tibbets. Colonel Tibbets. Yeah, okay. So he's the one who piloted that plane, one of the planes that dropped that bomb. But his grandson was a general in the Air Force out at Whiteman Air Force Base when I was out in that area.
Yeah.
And it was fun talking with him because, obviously he's super pumped up about his grandfather dropping a bomb like that. But he was over the B-2s, that Whiteman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that had to be a fabulous feeling too, to go over there, and go to Iran and bomb them and just fly right on back here to the States. I mean, that.
How would you like to have been on the decoy flight?
Well,
that was slick. That was a slick maneuver right there.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking west.
And they got so mad that Congress wasn't informed, but nobody can keep their lips sealed, about anything that goes on.
Right.
So
right,
it all makes sense. You don't have to know everything. It wasn't a declaration of war. It was only just a strategic strike to stop everything that was going bad over there, and it worked.
Yeah.
And initially they didn't want to keep the ceasefire going. They wanted to get one last poke at each other, but. At least they are, not shooting at each other anymore that I've heard about lately.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Iran's always been a real trouble place since '79.
Yeah.
And what they did in Beirut, they were behind it. And I mean, all of those things they were behind, and I consider what's going on in Iran as being it's a Shia theocracy, and I call it Khomeiniism.
Well, when I went through the Suez Canal in 1981, we actually had to go through the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb on general quarters about 4:00 in the morning. They had troops still lined up on both sides of the strait there in Yemen, and then what is that, Ethiopia, or I don't even remember what the other African country is on the other side, but yeah, they had troops lying down there, and they just didn't want to. They said, seemed like they were threatening anybody, so they just went through there, full tilt, at 4:00 in the morning through that area.
That's one place I've never been, is through there.
Well, I mean, going through there and serving 7 months over there and only having like 3 port calls, I did get the Navy Expeditionary Award, so that made me eligible for the VFW.
Right. So, yeah, I've got several of those.
And every 45 days out to sea, if you weren't on restriction, you got 2 cans of Miller. We actually did have a couple people that didn't have any, Liberty Security passes, and they actually jumped over the side because they wouldn't give a thing of beer. And I seen beer go for 25, $30 for a can. They would store that the beer down there in the weapons magazines. It's like 150 degrees down there. They served it cold, but it was flat.
Wow.
You store it down there, and it does go flat.
Wow. Wow.
But it took an act of Congress, they said, to be able to serve enlisted people, while out to sea.
I didn't even know they would do that.
Well, they did that. They did it several times, but
Oh my.
they also had a swim call there too. I can remember being anchored out there off the coast of Oman, and we went swimming.
Mhm.
I can remember too when they let the anchor down, they actually weren't paying attention to the color coding on the chain like that. And they ended up losing the main anchor. They had a salvage crew from Diego Garcia come and pick it up, and it met us back in the States.
Oh.
Yeah, they got the color coding on there. When you get to a certain color, you slow it down there, but they weren't paying attention, and it got away from them. The gold anchor, and it's funny, they got to paint a gold for the retention, but a lot of people, re-enlisted there so they could get off the ship. So it's kind of a false pretense on the award.
Oh.
I know that they tried talking me into re-enlisting. I thought about it, and they offered people too. I said, you want to do a cat shot, like in F-14s, and there was a few people that actually did that for the re-enlistment, so to be an enlisted person, to be able to do that, that's kind of rare. So, I did get to go up into a helicopter because you could request to do that. I was off the coast of Puerto Rico when I did that, and I decided at that point I never wanted to be air crew on a helicopter.
What happened?
Well, it's just such a rough ride, and like the fuel that they use for that, like the JP5, is just so dirty, burning. You ride 50 feet off the surface of the water, all the thrust hits the water, it comes back up, and you got a shaky ride. And it was just smelly, the fumes and everything. It wasn't a fun ride, but it was interesting. There for a while, I was attached to the C-1A crew too. The old propeller job that took from ship to shore, like passengers and the mail and stuff like that. And that was kind of fun, but I think that it would have been fun to do a catapult shot off of this ship.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be fun, actually.
I did watch one pilot there that wasn't paying attention there, the plane captain, to release the brakes, and the brakes were locked all the way down the runway like that. You could see smoke, but it still went off, no problem. 150 knots, shoot it off. As long as the engines are going full blast, by the time he got off the deck, he was okay to have locked brakes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure that he got chewed out for that.
Yeah, he probably didn't make it too far beyond the rank of what? Lieutenant? Lieutenant, maybe if he made it to lieutenant commander.
But the steam that they had there in the catapults there, it was like over 600 degrees.
My gosh.
The superheated, for the catapults only, and I think they said that that ship would make like 280,000 gallons of fresh water a day. So, that's a pretty sizable amount.
Absolutely.
I remember when we went out of the shipyard there in 1980, they did about 8 hours of just wide open, runs on the ship. I know that we got to go in at least 40 knots.
Where was home port for that, for the American?
Norfolk. Yeah. Good old Pier 12.
Pier 12.
That's down at the end. We when I was getting out of the Navy there, the Carl Vinson was the newest one there, but we had the Nimitz. The Nimitz was there too when we were there, and the Kennedy, not the Kennedy. What was 69? 69 was the Eisenhower.
Were you there in the late 70s or just in the 80s?
From 70, I was there from 1979 to
Okay,
1982.
okay, okay. I had left Norfolk in 78, I think it was. So,
Okay.
yeah, I left from there. I was part of the Naval Security Group detachment. Nobody could get into the building except us, obviously.
I had the only key.
Right. And oh my gosh, the people in that, there weren't too many of us there, but we were either on airplanes, surface ships, or
Yeah.
submarines because we were crypto tech people, the cryptologist. And mail call for me, you mentioned mail call, possibly using a helicopter to fly and get it, but we had mail call on submarines too. You know
Yeah.
how that worked?
You had to come to the surface. They didn't deliver it down below.
I
But
know. No. We didn't go to the surface. Oh my gosh. Where we were at, you went to the surface, you were in huge trouble. Big trouble.
so how'd they deliver then?
Well, they sent it from Green Bank, West Virginia.
Yeah.
There's a naval base in Green Bank, West Virginia, landlocked.
Huh.
But what they do was they would send a very long wavelength signal through the Earth's crust, and we would pick it up with this trailing antenna, and then they would do a little ticker tape thing and hand us a ticker tape from our parents or whatever. It says, "I'm thinking about you." You go, "Yeah, oh yeah, look at that. You're thinking about me." Okay.
Oh, I can remember we had mail call. You know, I get cookies there, and all I got left is crumbs. I mean, you couldn't even tell what kind of cookie it was. You could only taste it. You knew that it was, peanut butter cookies, but I mean, it was just
Oh
crumbs.
wow.
Even though it was packed very good, the ride overseas it didn't fare
No,
well.
no. Well, they couldn't send us cookies by Green Bank. They
And they had the ham radios too. They had the ham
oh okay.
operators, that would do that stuff, and
Wow. Back in the day.
that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah. Gee.
And reversing the phone call, you call from Australia, and you know, maybe a 20-minute phone call would cost you about $75 or something like
Said
that.
a bit lot. My parents didn't hear from me because I did 3 tours on submarines and all under the ice, the Arctic ice. So I've seen the bottom of icebergs,
Yeah.
and I've seen seagulls landing on the periscopes.
You never seen anything down there, I guess, that was unusual that I mean, I'm talking about like wildlife or anything like any type of fish or I mean,
No. The only thing that I found fascinating were the Alpha class submarines,
oh,
Soviet.
yeah, yeah.
That was my job, knowing where they were and what their surface ships were doing and all of that. That was how that's what I did I'd listen in and go, "Dive, Captain, get us out of here now."
Get me aboard, Scotty.
Yeah. We'd gather all that stuff and send it to NSC.
Yeah. Well,
Wow.
they got some kind of submarine. I think communications. I think in the UP of Michigan,
Hmm.
and I believe it is the Navy. Was it ELF? They call it.
Yeah, extremely low frequency. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I think they got antennas that are up in northern Michigan.
they may have. I don't know about that one. I do know that there was one at Green Bank, West Virginia, and I don't know that it's still being used. It may have been decommissioned because it was old then.
Right.
So I don't know for sure about that. But
Also know when they had that Air Force base in Michigan, that Kinchlow, they said that that runway was long enough up there that they could land the space shuttle.
oh wow,
They decommissioned the base, but
uh-huh.
I thought that would have been a worthwhile thing to keep, just in case you would have to have something where you needed a real long, runway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we've been at it for about an hour. No.
Yeah, we have. It's been kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, and that's fine too, because, basically though, what we have got to do is figure out ways to do things like this and tell stories so that people can understand that who we are.
Exactly. Yeah,
And that we're no different.
people that shouldn't be feared or hated. I mean,
Right. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that actually, engagement like this, where people are just talking back and forth, having a conversation, talking about their stories, their lives. That's the stuff that changes minds,
yeah,
or at
yeah,
least can, if the mind is not too solidly blocked off.
yeah. Yeah, I don't care what my neighbor does as long as it doesn't endanger my life. If you want to go out and shoot a gun, as long as you ain't shooting it my way,
Yeah,
I'm not going to complain.
exactly. Live and let live.
Yeah.
And that ends our midday show,
Yeah.
folks. And I'll tell you what, we'll come back tomorrow at around noon-ish, 1 Eastern, somewhere around there, varies. And then 6 p.m. in the evenings on the weekdays. I do take the weekends off unless there's breaking news.
That's all.
That's all. And page 2 tomorrow. Who said that? Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey said something like that, wasn't it?
That's right.
All right. Talk to you later.
Yep. Bye.